Welcome to the No Love Podcast, where we decrease tomorrow's divorce rate today by teaching singles and couples alike how to experience love on purpose and not by chance. I am your host, Edward L. Fairley, accompanied by my wonderful, lovely co-host, Michelle Larkin. Michelle, say hi to the people.
What's up? What's up?
A little crescendo there. You work. So you know how we do.
The energy is up. It's
got it. And it's up, but it's contained. If y'all haven't realized, she's in some kind of lobby, so she doesn't want to be.
I'm always on the go, dude. I can't be missing my appointments, but I gotta be mobile, so I make it work. I got my little kit. I'm traveling, able to podcast and contribute wherever I am. I think one time we did it. I was in the Virgin Islands, so don't even play.
He sure did.
That's right.
So
we will let this be whatever you want it to be.
Yeah, the backdrop. Yeah. Just use your imagination. Wherever you want her to be, that's what she is. But in the end, she is here. No matter where she's at, she's here on the show right now. We're doing this by any means necessary. So you know how we do. What's going on? What you working on? What you thinking about? What we need to be preparing for? What's going on?
Still waiting on news on whether or not I got that contract for motivational speaking or whatever. But I have also just been being really intrigued by how these podcasts impact my life and show up in different conversations during the course of the week. So I was in a management session, doing progressive discipline, and I was able to kind of share some of the working on yourself as a method of, and loving yourself can help a lot of different areas. And I was just trying to help this person realize that it's not about what's outward, it's about what's inward. And when you can control that noise, you can control the other noise. And it is amazing to see the change that has taken place in her life. And so again, you never know when that fruit's going to pop up. But this week, I can say the little seeds of conversation, and they typically happen right after this podcast, have definitely blossomed. And I'm just excited to watch that happen. So I'm just excited.
Well, I can, you know what? I share the same sentiments. What I love about this show is the feedback is not consistently romantic relationship oriented. And I love that because relationships is everything. So if you're taking this and you are applying it to life, whether it's romantically in the professional world, which actually today I'll be using an analogy of the professional world for today's topic to better correlate what it is that I'm trying to say from a romantic relationship standpoint. But if you are taking it that way, that means you are intelligent. And what I mean by intelligent as opposed to smart, I think I've shared this with you. A smart person can take stuff and they take what they learn in the environment that they learned it in, and they can apply it to that, but they're not intelligent enough to say, well, this actually is applicable to just life in general. I can take this from this particular setting and apply this to life and be successful in my respective areas, which is what you're basically saying. You're taking what we're sharing here because relationship is you, and how you bring that to whatever kind of relationship, it will yield you success. But we tend to think of relationships as solely romantic.
I'm a manager by day, so just so in case anybody doesn't know, I'm a manager and I'm responsible for a team of 20 or so people, and so I'm constantly in conversation and managing interpersonal relationships. So it's about modeling the principles that we talk about here, as well as being able to use little nuggets to leave breadcrumbs along the way to professional development. So for me, I share with you guys my romantic type stuff, but in terms of processing, it's definitely across the board application of the principles.
Yeah, I remember just to give an idea as to how much of a correlation it is. It was twice that Michelle, she hired me to do a training in NASA. Using the principles that I teach from a relationship to assist with the actual morale of the issues that was going on through management and the actual.
Yes, because typically if you have a lot of negativity, it's because people have internal issues. People doing the most talking have issues in here, and you can't pick anybody out or put, so making a training in general did address it without it calling anybody out by name, and I will say it was very successful, and there's still lingering fruit even from that one.
That's awesome. Wonderful. Well,
Well,
let's dive into this topic because you've already said multiple things that kind of align with this topic, and the topic in title of today's topic is called training versus rehabilitation. I'm gonna say that again: training versus rehabilitation. And I might get passionate a few times because this is a pet peeve of mine, and I really hope and pray that this delivers some people, because this is a very common issue that people have. From the triangle standpoint, this would definitely be in the dating phase, transitioning to relationship, and definitely, that's probably the most important phase for you to get this, but it definitely should be revisited when you're transitioning from relationship to marriage, and it's oftentimes missed. And it's imperative that you understand the difference between the two. So I'm going to make sure that it's clear and understood before the show as to the difference between training versus rehabilitation. But we tend to lean towards rehabilitation when we choose people, as opposed to someone that we can train. Now, I'm also gonna have to elaborate and expound on the word training, because it's often a negative connotation when you use it in the context of the way that I'm going to share it today. So I'll definitely dive into that too. But I'm gonna start by saying this, just to start to show the difference between the two, that you train people that qualify and you rehabilitate people who don't qualify. So it's
yes.
so
Yes.
that's something that you really, when we're talking about picking someone to be our forever mate or whatever, you need to be identifying as to whether this is somebody you are going into this, because it's so common. We go into this and we're like, oh, he's missing this, or he or she doesn't have that. I can work on that. I've literally heard people say, oh, he has this, I could train him. And what they're really saying after we define this is they can rehabilitate this person. And it's a difference between rehabilitation and training. All right. So I'm gonna start again with the way that I started by showing the difference between the two. And one is you train people that qualify for the job. You rehabilitate people who don't qualify for the job. So if we put this in the context of hiring or employment, you would not want to hire someone that you would have to rehabilitate. You would only want to hire someone that qualifies, that you can train because they match the actual principles or the morals and the values or the skill set that is necessary to complete the task or the job. Now, unfortunately, because I'm gonna let you dive in, I see you already contemplating. I see you got I see the mind working, Michelle. So unfortunately, and this is where my passion comes into play. Unfortunately, people tend to choose people they like and even love instead of people who qualify. I'm gonna say that again, because this is so common that it irks me. Unfortunately, people tend to choose people that they like and even love instead of people who qualify. Now, clearly, you should be picking someone to spend your life with that you like and you love, but not at the expense of them being a person that qualifies. Okay, so clearly you don't want to pick someone that qualifies, but you don't like and you love. But you definitely should not be sacrificing the third of the Trinity, I guess. You would want to like them, love them, and they should qualify. But go ahead and share, because I see you writing and thinking, Michelle. just share what's on your mind for right now, then we're gonna go in.
This is my life this week. This is my life in everyday life this week. And I'm saying that to say, again, from a different perspective, but I am going to say I am guilty. I have been guilty of hiring people who have a good vibe or
Yeah, I
who
like
have
it. Yeah.
presented on the resume. Let me be clear and slowly
You
tell
better
you
preach.
this.
You better
Who have
preach.
presented on the resume the
We're almost there.
qualifications that meet the requirement. The conversation conveys this vibe. You fall in love with them. Then they get
Mm,
on the job in the paper, don't
mm,
relate to the performance.
mm-mm.
Now you're like, to your point, have I hired somebody I fell in love with?
Yeah,
I get to actually qualify them. And so
yeah.
that goes to the interview process, which is what my mind was going, was like the interview process has to be based on scenarios or questions that relate back to the requirements of the position, not how you feel about them. There's got to be, and it's levels to this, right? So there, like you said, there's levels to this, and I'm saying this from being burnt. Like, damn, like now I'm in rehab. Jesus help me. But I'm just saying that was my moment. I'm gonna calm back
Okay.
down.
No,
However,
no. Good.
that misrepresentation of the document, if
Uh,
you don't have an understanding of the core requirements, can totally allow you to crash and go, but I love this person and they should
mm-hmm.
be on my team because they fit.
Yeah.
It would be so fun to,
Yeah.
and yet they can't perform. What?
That's right. That's
You're
right.
not helping my bottom line. You are a hindrance and a liability. You are not an asset. This is a problem.
There
And
you
then you
go.
know what you got to do, and this is my own testimony, is you got to get into this whole other personality and go, okay, so now I got to correct this. Now I can't even be nice. Now I got to be like, whether you love me or not, let's just have a real conversation. And it's not easy. But let me tell you, when you get sick and tired of being sick and tired, all of a sudden that is real like, okay. But why we gotta go there? That's what you gonna tell me. Why we gotta even get there? We don't gotta get there.
We
Cause
should
you
be
gonna
preventing.
break it down for me.
We should be preventing. We should be preventing ourselves from having to go there. And when you get to that place where you don't care, nothing that you say has love backed by it. It's not backed by love at all. You are you when you get to that place where you just don't care, and you know what? Like you literally said it. Like it is what it is.
It is
That's what
what
you
it is.
say.
And
You
I
know what
love
it
you
is?
enough. I love you enough to not let you fail consistently in my face.
It
I
is
don't
what it
need you to
is.
keep failing. I need you to succeed somewhere else. But I need you to not be failing here.
But see, but the thing is though, what you don't realize is you start resenting a person that you are at fault for hiring.
That's all I'm
You
saying. That's
so
all
yeah,
I'm
you're
saying.
resenting them for not qualifying based on you not interviewing properly or you
Exactly.
hiring them and falling in
Exactly.
love with them. So now you're
Exactly.
stuck with this liability. And this
Exactly.
and again, we're not talking about just work. We're using work as a correlation, but clearly relationships are everywhere. And typically, if you're listening to this podcast, you are a worker. So I just needed to bring it to your environment so that I can help you correlate this to relationship. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to break the process down through dating, relationships, and marriage. Okay. So the first part is dating. Dating is the interview and the resume. That's actually both things. That is the presentation of,
It's layer
okay,
1 and 2. Mm-hmm.
exactly. So that's 1 and 2. That's the dating process. But if you, in which it's often that businesses don't have, if you don't have principles, morals, values, or an objective for your business, you can't interview properly. This is why it's imperative to have the self-interest and come up with your principles, morals, and values before you start dating. Otherwise, you're just dating and you don't even know how to interview correctly to know as to whether they are the right candidate for the job.
Or you'll do what I did in this situation, which is fall for the okie doke.
We're getting there. We're getting there. I
Fall for
told you
the
the process. That's why dating is the interview. You don't have a job. Dating is the interview.
higher,
So
slow, fire, fast.
here we go. Dating is the interview. and the resume check. That's what dating is. That's when you're going
Check
out
the
on
references.
dates to see if they meet the objectives, the standards, and the morals and the values. Now, the problem with this is, like, typically, if you pay attention to companies, if you check the help wanted ads, they say help wanted, seeking, and they share all of the actual requirements or things that they're looking for, attributes, which is why the people who are at home, they recreate their resume to match all of those things, which is what you're getting at the dating interview process. Now, from there, you are hired if you qualify or pass the interview or dating phase. This will be transitioning to relationship. Now, when you get hired, because you qualify, you go through training. That is what a relationship is. Relationship is supposed to be the training ground.
And you can pass or fail training.
That's the whole point of it being
Or fail
training.
training.
So training is the time frame that you're going through to see if this person can actually do the job that they said that they can do. That's what a relationship is. And if you do well in training, you get a promotion. That would be marriage. That's marriage, people. This is the entire process. So if they do well in training, they have proven to align their paperwork with their interviewing process, showing that they meet the objectives and the requirements of the company, you promote them to a spouse. Now, that's the whole point. You said earlier, some people, they show fictitious signs or resumes, and they interview well. They've practiced multiple times to know how to interview well. But that's what the training is for. And a lot of people aren't training long enough to see if the person is qualified before they transition into marriage.
Let me add to that point. And training is about identifying the appropriate scenarios to demonstrate what you're looking for, right? It's not just train. Like if I'm hiring a doctor, I'm not going to train them on construction. It's if I'm looking for certain attributes, and I need my scenarios and my training need to illustrate that tactic, that skill set.
Training should be simulation, period. So simulation of the actual job. Training is not reading the actual the code of conduct and all that stuff. That's not what training is. It's literally being in the actual job, simulating the job. If you're in a call center, you're on the phones. If you're in telecommunication or a technician or whatever,
by fire in the heat.
Yeah, you're out there. You are doing the actual job, and we are watching your competency when it comes to this actual job. That is what the relationship is. We went through the interview process. You seem to qualify. I'm hiring you, i.e. the relationship, and now we're going through training. Let's do this training thing. Now, as we train, we say, you know what? This person is definitely like he qualifies or he doesn't. We found out through the training that you don't match your resume, and I'm sorry, I can't promote you.
You can find out through the training that they're qualified and capable, but only at a certain level. And I'm sure that is in relationships too, that you may be good for a date, but not necessarily for a long-term relationship. Or like in my situation, this person was good for non-visible activity, but when it became a higher profile, more pressure situation, they didn't perform at the same level. And so
you're pregnant or you're not. There's no wiggle room. You either qualify for the job or you're not. You can't be partially qualified for the job. The training says in order for you to get the promotion or to get the job, you can pass training. If you don't pass training, you don't pass. Remember, the interview process is an objective. The objective is to hire someone that meets the qualifications of the job. You either have them or you don't. That's why we have a grocery list. And I say, or the non-negotiable list, if you have a grocery list of 8 and they have 6, is no, oh, well, no one's perfect. No, yes, there is a perfect person for you. You're right. No one's perfect, but there's a perfect person for you. And that's why we're not talking about physicalities. We're talking about morals, values, standards, principles, things of that nature.
That's more than just the vibe. That's more than just falling in love. That's more than the butterflies and the joy, and it's exactly. More than
because you can most certainly love someone and they don't qualify. That's why you technically shouldn't hire family members, because it's harder to fire them when you need to do it. And it causes a lot of blind spots. So you need to be qualifying persons that you are dating to make sure that you're investing your time, because you can't get time back. That is the most valuable asset in the world. You should not be playing with your time. So dating is time consuming enough to go into a relationship and then jump into marriage when you're talking about sharing assets, buying homes, cars, and sharing stuff in each other's names that can ruin your credit. And now we're talking about adding time to fix your credit and fix your life because of the time that you wasted on someone who didn't qualify because you didn't necessarily take the proper time to get your qualifications in order so that you know how to interview. So from there, from the training ground, meaning we're testing to see what it would be like if we were married. And this actually bothers me. I know from a legal standpoint that people say, okay, once you're single until you're married. Okay, but if you treat that relationship like you're single, you're never going to be married. So I would be thinking marriage and responding to you according to marriage, so that once I get there,
Be that way. And I think that's where people find themselves disillusioned, right? Because they flip the switch at the altar and then start treating the mate like the husband or wife, when you really should have eased into that.
Which is the underlying issue anyway, because why would you be flipping a switch? That implies change. You flip a switch when there's darkness and there's light, or there's light and you want it to be darkness. So flipping the switch means you're flipping the script, which means you're not who you're getting married with in the first place. There's a problem. If y'all aren't transitioning to what the life is going to be,
transitioning and flipping are not the same thing.
You said what?
Transition is a smooth transition, and flipping is an abrupt change. And that's what people do. They go, I don't want to get married because that piece of paper is going to change everything, because I'm going to flip the script on it. But that day, everything changes. And you're like, what are you talking about? It's the same person I was with yesterday. What happened?
Exactly. Which is why, again, notice what I said in the beginning of this actual this podcast. I said it's typically missed and it's important in the beginning, but it should definitely be revisited before you transition from relationship to marriage. Because some people, they start thinking that, okay, this requires a different set of rules and a different set of doing things. And it's like, well, why would you marry something that's different from what you've been enjoying? What logical
also
sense?
begs the question of the things that make you uncomfortable while you're dating. If you can't tolerate them, they're just going to get worse when you're married. So you got to, if this is the person, this is the person. What they do is what they do.
It also begs the difference is, are you looking to marry them to rehabilitate them or to train them?
Do you want this person or the one you're about to make them into? Do you want this person or the one that when the curtain goes up, they turn into? Like, what? Exactly. Which one do you want?
Exactly. So typically people are getting married because they think marriage is the means or their gate or door into the rehabilitation process. Now, the thing about rehabilitation is there's only one of three ways that rehabilitation comes into place. One will be forced under duress, meaning prison, or in a situation where you seem like you're in a prison, which is oftentimes abusive, or again, like I said, in prison, where you're forced to be rehabilitated and changed and conform. And unfortunately, in those predicaments, you're rehabilitated into a negative.
Is it conformance or rehabilitation? And that is something to consider.
Well, as time lapses, it becomes rehabilitation. And I'm gonna go into that as the second portion, because the second way that a person is rehabilitated is indirectly because of the environment that they're in. So that's when we're talking about prison, they say they've been institutionalized. Or you find someone that's from up north and they move down south, and then they go back home, and they're like, you country, you Geechee, you started conforming, or your insides, which is what the rehabilitation is changing your insides. Who you are inside is causing you to start expressing differently. So that's what the rehabilitation is. So as you're in that environment for a long period of time, you start to be rehabilitated to conform or to start to reform yourself.
Would you say that people marry when they feel like the conformance has taken place, not and thinking that the rehab has taken place and it hasn't, and then they're disappointed? Like if you can be with someone and set some standards and they act like, right? So they act like you want them to act. But that's not necessarily full transformation. That is just adjusting and
That is
adapting.
yeah. That's completing a task, not becoming something. And then the last portion of the three ways is seeking help to be changed into a better person. So that is a person that literally went to a rehabilitation center or a 12-step program because they say, I have a problem, I see you have a problem, and I want to change. Now, the question is, when in any kind of relationship do you have someone that wants to be in a duress situation, that wants to be in an environment that they're slowly going to change? Now, typically when they're seeking help to change for the better. Typically, when we're talking about this situation, when you're talking about rehabbing someone, you're talking about changing them, not changing yourself. So when you're so you're looking to actually change that person. And rehabilitation, again, unless it's under duress or it is done indirectly, that is not going to happen on its own. So to get married or to get into a relationship, to think that you are going to rehabilitate someone, you are more than likely going to fail. Again, unless it's an abusive relationship, and that's just unfortunate. And I pray that you're not in that situation and you transition. But again, if we're talking about you being the person that's initiating, you would not want to be in a predicament where you're trying to become an item with someone based off of you wanting to rehabilitate that person. Now, it's a difference, and we'll talk about training in a moment, but we're talking about rehabilitation right now. There's not a relational setting where someone is getting into it with the hopes of being rehabilitated. That's not the case. So if you are going, and this is why we need to define whether you are going into a relationship with hopes of rehabilitating someone or training, we're trying to define that so that you can know before you dive into this marriage, that person that has this fiance, that person who's now transitioned, because y'all been dating for a while, and you're talking about getting into a relationship, you want to know and understand as to whether you're looking to train this person or possibly train them into certain things. And when I say training, again, I'm going to define that. We just talked about rehabilitation, which is the negative aspect of this, and we'll go into training after Michelle's response. Go ahead, Michelle.
My thoughts were, and I had a conversation about this earlier this week. I have a young person on my team that's preparing to get married, and so they have an insatiable need to learn, and so they like to apply that knowledge at home, and so they are talking to their mate like, you should, and this is new information, and you should, and I found this out, and you should. And I was like, time out.
There you go.
Are you in a relationship with this person to fix them, or are you their romantic love interest? Because they don't need that until they ask for it. You don't come home and start directing. You come home, maybe you have this information.
Right.
You can bring it home, but it may be something shared, but don't direct them until they ask for it.
That's exactly
because
right.
that is not the relationship you're in with them. That is a loving relationship. This is comfort. This is nurturing. This is caring. This is sharing. And you coming home talking about what I learned was, and what you need to do is. And I was like, probably not the good deal. And I said, that kind of learning, people don't want that for as a state of being. Right? Mm-hmm. So you don't want the rehab or training to be a state of being. It's a season. Any training or any rehab is not a permanent state. It happens for a beginning, a middle, and an end. And then there's an objective achieved, and then you move on. That's only a piece of a relationship. That's not the whole relationship. You shouldn't. Who wants to live like that? Oh my goodness. And it was zealous. It was genuine. It was genuine. Like, oh my God, I just learned how to tie my shoe. You need to tie your shoe this way. No, but my shoe is fine. I didn't ask you about my shoe. I have slip-ons, as a matter of fact.
And what blows my mind about that type of situation, because it's very common, you have that person that, now I'm on a diet, I eat well or whatever, so now the whole family has to do it. Or I've started this exercise now. My husband doesn't exercise. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. First of all, did you realize you're 38 and you just started exercising? It took you 38 years to get your happy tail on the treadmill. Now you want to just make sure, like cold turkey, because now your mind has changed, his is supposed to change, or vice versa. So it's a very common thing that happens where and the best way to do that is that's the indirect way of doing it. If you create the environment whereby now, because you started practicing this stuff, you're starting getting results, and they respond to you like, you know what, something's different about you. You say, oh, by the way, I've been doing this, and this is what's helpful. So if you want to take that, if you happen to be that person,
but it's not a condition of our relationship.
Exactly. Most certainly, which again, that's why we're going back to how you choose. You should be choosing someone who qualifies, and then from there, you can train them. Now, let's discuss what training looks like. First and foremost, if you are training somebody to conform to your principles, morals, and standards and values, you failed as a hiring person. You've already failed. Because standards, morals, and values are your inner compass, and that is what causes you to respond the way that you respond in the first place. You have now figured out that you need to fire this person. There's not really a way that
in the real world, it's typically a process. It's not even an overnight thing. You can't even make the decision to be like, peace out. You can't. It's the same process it took to get in. It's a process to get out.
It's imperative. Like, that's why I stress the non-negotiable is like way in the beginning, because I've had people that say, oh, I heard you had a book, and they're like engaged or they're married. And I'm like, okay, I can share the book, but you can't unknow what you now know once I share it. You might find out in reading this book that you have chosen the wrong person. And now you're going to have to deal with it, or you're going to have to deal with it. Which one is like, so there's a different context in how I'm saying deal with it. Now, a lot of people, well, I've already I got wedding dresses, we got bridesmaids and all that stuff. Okay. You're going to have kids, a house, and a car in a few. You like, what are you going to do? Are you going to deal with it?
Get out early and save some money, or get out late and have
exactly.
to save money. Like,
exactly. As far as training is concerned, if you've been paying attention to my teaching, the only thing that you should be training someone that already has your morals, principles, and values is on how to effectively love you in contrast to the way that they prefer to be treated. And what I mean, or treated versus the way that you want to be treated. Because again, we've done shared things that people typically treat you the way that they want to be treated. It's because in their mind, they think that the way that they want to be treated is how everybody wants to be treated. But the crazy thing about it is, because we typically don't think about what we're saying or feeling or stating. If I go into a room and I say, how many people agree that opposites attract? Mostly, if not everybody, they're going to raise their hand. And then I ask them the second question, well, why is it that you expect your mate to respond the way that you do? Then it gets quiet. If you think opposites attract, why would you think your opposite is going to respond the same as you? It doesn't make sense. So this is where the training comes into play. You should be training them on how to treat you, and then indirectly you might inspire them or rehabilitate things like cooking that they did not want to do at first, but now because they see how much you enjoy it and they just want to do something, they will start to want to do things, or they'll share the desires of your heart as they share your heart through their experience. So one of the things that you said last week, Michelle, that I didn't really think about is my wife's post about my birthday, and how she shared how when she looks in the mirror now, when I say I love her, she thinks to herself that, when I say that she's beautiful, she thinks that I'm beautiful too. When she looks in the mirror and sees that she's beautiful, she doesn't just see me, she see her, she sees me. And she's basically saying that I'm a contributing factor to how she sees herself. And what I'm saying is indirectly, you can rehabilitate a person's actions, but you should be automatically making sure that they qualify from a core standpoint. Go ahead, Michelle.
Rehab, and to your point, and to hook on to what you're saying, rehabilitation in that context is strengthening an area of weakness versus changing a bad behavior, right? And strengthening an area of weakness is what give and take is, and what that love factor is iron sharpens iron, and love covers a multitude of faults, but it also is a healing kind of balm. So the more transparent I can get with you, and the more yours, the opposites, right? So my strength is your weakness and your weakness is my strength. But if we're together like that, then your strength is making my weakness stronger, and so we're both getting stronger overall. And it's it's a different type of rehab. It's a more it's a it's a more healing rehab than it is fixing a broken piece. It's more strengthening an area of weakness.
Mm-hmm. I give a good example. It was so many years ago, but I've never been attracted to smokers. It's a serious turnoff for me. And I had been dating this girl off and on for a minute when I was young, early teens. Um, and we had already had sex. We had been kissing, all kinds of stuff. Um, and one day I pulled up and she was at a place that I didn't know. I just happened to see her and I saw her smoking.
Done.
I didn't know that she smoked. I don't know if she just started or she hit it well and I never knew. But from that day forward, I saw her like a day or so after that, and she leaned in to give me a kiss, and I immediately turned my head, and I was like disgusted. Like I could not get past what I saw and who she was and how it did not align with what I liked, period. Now, again, we had already had sex. We had already made out. And I say all that to say some people might say that that's pretty drastic. I'm saying, but who I am, the core of me, is non-negotiable. It's what I'm saying. My core, my non-negotiable list of can't smoke or whatever. Like
it's yours, and you have the right to have yours.
Exactly, and I don't care what people feel about mine because it's mine. So I say all that to say I would have to be rehabilitated in order for me to be receptive to a person that I seen smoke, because it is who I am. Now I can kiss someone and probably try to keep the throw up from coming up, meaning I can act like I'm okay with something, but the core of me is rejecting it the whole time. But that doesn't mean that I was rehabilitated. That just means that I'm acting.
You adapted.
I adapted, or I'm acting just so that I can get what I want or just have the person around. And there's a lot of us that the core of us is rejecting our situations. And we are just trying to
internal dissonance.
Exactly.
You know it, but you don't want to say it. You know it.
Exactly.
You don't want to say it.
And instead of us turning our head like I did, no, man. And she was like, well, what's wrong? I said, and I was straight. I've always been honest. Matter of fact, I was worse then than I am now, because at that point, I didn't really have love as a core of me. It was just the truth. I was that kid that was like, what do they say? Use tact. Why use tact if it means the same thing? That's stupid. I was just that guy. I was that guy. Now I'm gonna try to find a better way for you to receive it. Not necessarily because I'm concerned about how you will respond to me. It's more so I'm sharing something that I believe that it can help you. And if it's going to come in a way that you can't receive it, it's pointless for me to have shared it in the first place. So that's the only reason why now I do it that way, because it's pointless to have something or light that I can share if it's going to leave you in darkness by the way that I share it.
Can I ask you a question?
Of course.
What is the deciding factor of whether you should rehab train if you have this internal thing that like we're talking about, like in the situation of smoking, would you leave, or would you say, could you not smoke? Like what is you left? I'm sure you were just like, it's not part of you're leaving.
We were dating anyway.
Yeah.
She failed training. Well, she never made it to training. But she just would not have been promoted, and clearly she wasn't.
So now, what if you're promoted, and this does happen? So you get past a certain level, you get promoted, and then a new piece of information comes along that is now in dissonance with your core values, but you have been promoted, you are in a more serious situation. What are the things to take into consideration? You can't always just walk out when some new piece of information comes up.
That's exactly right. That's why it's imperative that your training make sure that it addresses all core values. Now, there's going to be situations, like I said, say my wife, she started smoking. Say my wife started drugs. That's something that I've signed up for, and I have to figure out how to help her through that and help us in that situation, because we are now we're one unit. So if she's sick, I'm sick. And that's what I signed up for. That is what sickness and health, death do us part. But that's why you want to make sure that you've qualified the person that you're going to go through that with, so that it's going to be a little easier in that tough situation to get through.
Does this go back to the conversation we had a long time ago, like assume good intent? I think it was how to argue. I think that was the conversation we were having, how to argue, because typically an argument is when something comes up that is causing you to feel some kind of way that may or may not go against your core values. But at the level you're talking about, or we're talking about, when you get into that next level, then how you communicate about the things that may or may not be an issue is more of something that's more important. Now it's not necessarily, it may be rehab because we're in, but you should be able to communicate from a loving space regardless.
It can't be rehab. I just shared with you where rehab comes from. Rehab comes from, especially when it comes to drugs,
retraining?
From a person that feels
retraining then?
Hold on. Let me answer.
It's not rehab.
It can't be rehab, because, and the only way that you can get into rehab is if you feel the need to change. So that would imply that my wife wants to change. And that's the reason why I share that, because it can't be rehab. Now, another thing that you also have to know and understand when it comes to a relationship is I'm not trying to change my wife, never. And I'm also not trying to change me. Notice now, when it came to the young lady, when we talked about her leaning in to kiss me, that impacted me. So I rejected that. I didn't tell her she needed to change, nor would I tell my wife she needed to change. But our relationship is going to change as a result of your change. I still can respect myself and still be with you. That means we're not doing it. Like I've had the conversation. Okay, so somebody is cheating on you, and you are in that promotion phase. You can sense it. You feel that they're cheating. I'm not saying that you need to leave, but I definitely would recommend that you put a condom in his face and say, before you think you're going to get some of this, you're either going to deny them some, or you're going to put some protection on, because I don't know what you're doing. And that's when it gets real, because now you have to consider how you feel about this relationship. So that's how I respond. I never try to change my wife, but I do change my environment and how I respond. The only person that I am responsible for in reference to my experiences is myself. So I'm never going to try to change you. I might change you indirectly from the person that I am, but there's never an intent. And that's why people have issues, and that's why they have arguments, because they're so busy trying to change someone that they have no control over, which is someone outside of themselves. Never in a million years would I ever try to change my wife. I love my wife, and I love myself, and I will always respect myself. My wife's problems, I will try to assist if she feels that she wants to be helped. But if she doesn't, I have to back off and respect her feelings and where she's at. So that's the only way I can really answer that question. I'm not trying to change my wife. Now, it will probably be a strained situation, but I'm not going to stop respecting myself.
I think there's something really liberating about allowing the other person to take responsibility for themselves and not acting as, quote, crutch, or taking on the responsibility of fixing them. Because we become one flesh doesn't mean I become you. It means that we have become a unit.
Exactly. And the only way that person can really succeed in rehabilitation is if they want it to happen. You can't want something. That's the whole point. That's why this is a pet peeve of mine, because so many people get into relationships because they see the potential in the person, as opposed to going into a relationship because they see the person. That's a problem, we keep on going into relationships that are dreams as opposed to relationships that are. And we never see the dreams always remain a dream because they never had a chance to wait for the reality to come into their lives, and then they can experience and love it. That's why,
Or
and
be
that's another.
confident enough to do what you're saying, which is state your expectation, not your expectation, but state your core values, so that the person can tell you whether or not I meet that expectation or that have those core values.
Most certainly. And there's a lot of people that transition knowing that the person doesn't have their core values and they think, well, it'll work. No, it doesn't work that way. Let's think about this. And this is what bothers me. You're going into a relationship. And you go into saying, well, we don't have the same core values, but I love him or I like him or her. But what happens when you have that child that you have to raise and you want to instill core values in them? Whose are you going to give them? How are you going to raise that child? There's going to be a serious problem. And there's going to be a lot of the child doesn't have to listen to you because dad said this, or she doesn't have to listen to mom because mom, and they're going to play off of y'all. They're going to play off of your different, your core values whenever they get a chance and whenever it benefits them to do so. So that's a very dangerous and very inconsiderate and just emotional decision to feel something right now, not considering the future. That's very, very dangerous and very, very immature and very, very just inconsiderate of just your life and your future and even those who are going to be impacted by the actual situation.
So let me just say, as a divorced person, as you say, you cannot get your time back.
Wow. Yeah.
And you have to there are consequences for not taking stock in what these kind of conversations are about. And no, it's not that you will die and you can't recover, and it's not that it's the end of the world, but that you're taking on baggage that you didn't have to take on.
That's real.
And you are extending the process of getting to the dream come true. But it's wisdom hard bought versus wisdom shared. And
That's
I'm just
really good.
saying that I don't necessarily regret the choices that I made, but I know that if I had the information that I have now, I would have made different decisions. And there's something to be said for saving yourself from mistakes by virtue of doing the research and taking in information and being a student. I can see it now as an adult. You know, it's why we go to college or why we pursue training in any particular area, is so that you can accelerate the accomplishment process. And so you train to be able to do the scenario so that when you get into the real world, you don't have to train on real situations. You practice, you can accelerate the learning process. And same thing in relationships. And it goes back to why there is a simulator called the No Love Simulator, because if you can simulate, if you can practice, if you can train, then you might not find yourself in a divorcee situation, having carrying that pain and having to manage all of the fallout, because there is only one pass through this life. And I just told somebody today, make your first pass your best pass.
Yeah, and that's great information. And to add to what you just stated, you can't unsee what you've seen. You can't unexperience what you've experienced. You can't you just can't. You can't undo what has already been done. And I say that to say, if you really, really love the idea of that dream person, i.e. your non-negotiable list, I would highly recommend you prevent yourself from being put in predicaments whereby they're going to take the blame or they're going to get the backlash of the experience that you've gotten through the person who you did not qualify before you transitioned with them.
You can't help that. That is human nature. You can think that you're over it, but you are constantly filtering based on your past experience, and you cannot edit that out.
That's exactly right. So clearly I hit a nerve, and that's she inspired that because I thought about it. Yeah, because there's the person that loves you that has to go through all of this stuff when it's not necessary, when they're literally just trying to love you. When you finally find that person trying to just love you. For one, you oftentimes miss out on that person, not because they leave you, but because you can't even receive the love that they have to offer, because you can't trust the love that they have to offer. And it's unfortunate, because you've allowed yourself, because you didn't put in the necessary work, the due diligence necessary to vet these people that you're trying to date and consider as to whether you should transition with them or not, and you're putting yourself in a bad predicament. I also want to go back to something that you stated earlier as far as kind of arguing or speaking to my wife. Another thing that allows for things that I ask to be done or I even suggest to be done getting done is that I don't complain a lot. And what I mean by that is because I'm so consistent in allowing my wife or family or anyone to be, whenever I suggest something, it's apparent that it's something that is really, really worth listening to, because I don't typically talk or sit down and have that kind of conversation with you, because again, typically I'm filtering as to whether this is going to impact the lives of our family or her or me or whatever or not. If it's not, that's just her thing, and let her go on about her business. But the minute that you do something that threatens the future of my family, me, or our children, that's when we have to have a conversation. And that's so far and few in between that when I speak, I'm heard. Whereas if you're always nagging, if you're always nitpicking, if you're always saying something about something, when you speak, your words have no weight or any value, because that's just what you do. So you should be making sure that it's worth having a conversation or being addressed before you do it, so that when you do sit down and it's really serious, it is taken seriously. So we are at the end. We've pretty much we talked about training. We talked about rehabilitation. The only time you should be training is because the qualified person just has some skills that they lack that prevent y'all's job in this relationship from being, or from the job of being a successful unit in this relationship from flourishing or prospering. That's the only time you should be changing or training them in that regard. Sex, definitely train. Make sure that they're doing it the right way and return the favor the right way for them, so that you both can get to y'all's destination. But rehabilitation, if you are going into a relationship thinking that you are going to change this person into a fictitious person that you've never seen before, and when I say fictitious, not saying that the type of person is not possible, it's just saying that person being that type of person is not, you haven't seen evidence of it, that is rehabilitation. You need to count your losses and move. Do not try to hire that person and go into training with them or go into a promotional marriage situation. They don't qualify. It's okay to love them. It's okay to love them, but it's not okay for you two to be an item and you all to start transitioning into this romantic cycle of love. They're just not the one. Like she said, you can have friends and they'll be fine or what have you, but they're not the right person. And we try to do it, like you said, it's human nature. We like him. There's something about him. I like him. So I'm trying to make him work this job. I'm going to try to make this job work. Instead of us making the person work the job, we try to change the job for the
honest,
person.
that comes from a scarcity or fear mindset. And whether you address it or not, that's really what it is. I have to take.
That's why it's a foundation. That's why we're at the foundation, which is self-interest, which is self-esteem, which is self-love. And if you ain't got it, you're going to get whatever you get because you don't have enough love for yourself for you to be picky. And you need to be picky. When you start loving yourself, you are really, really picky about who you're going to be adding to your environment and to your situation. So when you get to a place, that is, if you want to get to a place where you are good at interviewing, love yourself. Love yourself. When you get to a place where you love yourself, I promise you, you won't pick the wrong one. I promise you. And that's why we're working hard to get you all to a place. And to be perfectly honest with you, the No Love Podcast is a actual tool of rehabilitation. That's all we're doing. And the reason why it's rehabilitation, because y'all come here because you want to grow. You all are coming here seeking help to change and grow and evolve. That's why it's going to work. This is your rehabilitation. This is training and rehabilitation at its best and its core. Before we leave, before we go, we have Lisa. She says, if you don't qualify, you should not get the job in that relationship. Exactly. That's what we're talking about. That's the correlation. If you don't qualify, you don't get the job. You can't feel bad that the person didn't qualify. The person didn't qualify. The fact that you're hiring means you are worth them even being in your relationship. They came to you for the job. That means they need you. That's what a lot of y'all don't even realize y'all value. If you're dating, they came to your job. They came to your place of work trying to get the job. And if they don't qualify, they don't qualify. But don't change your job, i.e. you, to fit them. You change the person until you get the right person for the job. So, with that being said, is there any closing remarks, Michelle? All right. All right, so that wraps it up. Training versus rehabilitation. We want to lean towards training because we've landed the right person, the person that qualifies. Don't get all caught up in this whole I like them or I love them. They either qualify or you don't. You're either pregnant or you're not. So there's no in between. So with that being said, until we meet again, I love y'all. I promise y'all, I'm so passionate about you all being liberated from the shackles and the things that prevent you all from just experiencing love on purpose and not by chance. I promise you, I will continuously study, think, ponder, talk to you all about what's going on in your lives so I can better teach this in a manner that will liberate you and prevent you from having to just go at this haphazardly, not even understanding as to whether things are working. Like, you literally can measure if you are progressing in love. You literally can intentionally have love in your lives, but it starts with you loving yourself first. And we're going to get there one show at a time. Please keep coming, and I'm going to keep pouring because I'm going to keep filling myself with what's necessary to keep you all full. I love y'all. Until we meet again, y'all be safe. Peace.